Our Earth is in turmoil. As the Arctic is melting, many animals are losing the polar ice caps that they once relied on in order to hunt successfully, while deforestation has stripped the homes from many species of wildlife, and in the process has killed and injured many others. And on the other side of the country, pollution that has seeped into the ocean has caused CO2 levels to rise extensively, while entangling wildlife in nets and plastic, causing many animals to suffer from excruciating pain that they do not deserve. Despite all these tragic events, the U.S. government has proposed an idea called the Keystone Pipeline, which they claim is an efficient and beneficial idea. However, there is one question that is consistently asked. What are the pros and cons of building this pipeline? The people want to understand the good and the bad about the pipeline, to see if it would affect their lives in a positive or negative way, as well as learning about the pipeline's effect on the environment and the economy. One advantage of the Keystone Pipeline would be the amount of jobs it brings to the American people. In the U.S., with over 3.5 million people that are homeless and suffering from financial problems, the pipeline may be the solution that they need to get back on their feet. Politicians claim that the pipeline would supply over 42,000 people with temporary jobs during the time period it would take to build and construct the pipeline. If the people helping to build the pipeline are paid enough money, it could be the financial boost they need to rise from their financial problems and work to get their life back on the right path. It could also help homeless people in finding a suitable place to live, as well as making enough money to support themselves and their families. If Keystone was built, it would also bring large sums of money to the U.S. economy. If the pipeline was created, it would create even more oil that would be ready to export to countries that are willing to buy it, such as Canada and Singapore. If Keystone was built, it would transport more crude oil nationwide, and with more oil, other countries would pay for it due to the cheap price and accessibility. The U.S. State Department estimated that this would bring $3.4 billion to the American economy, which is greatly in need of it, as the nation struggles with an $18 million debt crisis. However, despite the positive impacts the pipeline would have on the U.S. economy, there's also a negative side to building it, as it would affect the environment horribly. If the pipeline were constructed, it would be built on tar sands. If the tar sands, which is a combination of clay, sand, water, and bitumen, were burned to install the pipeline, the Earth would suffer drastically. The planet's temperature would increase by 2 degrees Celsius, which would cause certain water sources to dry up due to the warmer temperatures. And human starvation and animal starvation would be more prevalent, as crops would not be able to withstand the increased heat, and without water available, they would wither away under the scorching sun. Environmentalists opposed to the pipeline are also concerned about the water sources the pipeline would travel through. Keystone would travel through the Missouri River, Yellowstone River, which is connected to the Missouri River, and the Red Rivers, which run through the Missouri also. If the pipeline burst, the results could be devastating. The oil would contaminate the water, poisoning and killing the fish that depended on it. The people who relied on the water as a drinking source would have to look elsewhere. And the farmers who depended on the water for irrigation for their crops would suffer serious product loss. The animals who depended on the water to fish and drink in, like bears and deer, would have to migrate elsewhere, which could disturb the peace among both humans and other animal species. And many of the migrating animals would die on the journey due to lack of resources and clean water. Keystone is built, our world would become a more devastating version of the Lorax, with animals covered in sticky tar, the ocean choking on thousands of gallons of oil being spilled into it, and thousands of trees being slaughtered to make more room for oil pipelines. There seems to be no hope for our Earth. However, there is. You can reject the pipeline, as it would not help the Earth in the slightest bit. If it was built, along with other environmental factors, it would destroy our Earth, leaving it a barren wasteland, just like the image shows. Is this really the world we want to leave to our children? Dirty, contaminated, and polluted? This is the world we should want to leave for them. A beautiful, thriving, and healthy environment. By rejecting the Keystone Pipeline, you will be saying that you want to live in a clean, healthy world as well. Let's work to end the world's suffering and leave it a beautiful place for future generations to come.